Good morning, everyone, and welcome back to Covenant Keepers. It's Wednesday, January the 29th, and I am again here with my esposa bonita. Did I say that right?
You're going to make this a bilingual podcast?
Did I say it right, though?
Yes, you did.
I've been practicing my Spanish since we met, and I can literally not even hold a conversation still. I failed being a student of Spanish. I don't know why I find it so difficult.
Oh, some people think I have failed because I haven't taught you.
Well, we're not going to give up. We're going to continue to push forward, and pray maybe one day we can do a bilingual podcast.
Okay.
Now, we're going to need a big God. We're going to need a big God to get to that point because I got, hey, it's cold outside. I can say it's frío, which is cold. There's a little Spanish for you guys that don't know. Frío means cold. Well, right? Does it?
Yes. It's a little cold today. A little cold for us Floridians.
See, that's what's crazy. Yesterday was really warm? I don't know. One day it's warm, and then this morning I got up and it was 44?
Yeah, something crazy.
So we're up and down. I always see these posts going on Facebook talking about how the weather is winter in the morning and summer in the afternoon. Man, that is literally what we're seeing. We're having 40 degrees.
We have to keep our jackets and our sandals ready to go because in the morning is jackets and in the afternoon you can put on your sandals.
It's crazy, this weather. But anyway, it's a beautiful day today.
Again,
I'm able to be here with my beautiful wife, and it's a gift, and I just love the fact that we're able to work together on a daily basis. And I know some people can't imagine being with your wife 24/7, 365, but literally that's where we're at. Now, it hasn't always been like that.
No, it hasn't. This has kind of evolved into this in the past 2 years? Been 2 years?
About 2 years now we've been doing it full time.
But it's interesting because this was something we discussed wanting and desiring for our future.
We prayed about this, babe.
Yes,
A long time
6,
ago.
7, 8 years ago?
It was something far-fetched when we prayed it. Man, wouldn't it be cool if we could actually do something together?
Together, for marriages, to help people in their marriages. And I know for some people this is going to be weird, but I'm going to say it anyway because I feel like God put this vision on my heart one morning super early in the 5 o'clock hour when you were driving to work many moons ago. Mm-hmm. I remember I was watching a great teacher by the name of Jimmy Evans. Mm-hmm. Awesome marriage teacher. But I remember watching this show that so early in the morning, and I felt like God gave me a vision that we were going to be in the marriage ministry at some point in our lives working together. And at that point, it was way out there. It was super far-fetched. Yes. I remember calling you excited about it. Mm-hmm. And do you remember what your thoughts were?
I have no idea I had no idea at that point. We really hadn't talked about it, so this was really oh, cool, babe, awesome. So I really didn't have that moment that you had, but God has definitely, I know, transformed my heart, and I know for a fact it's through the prayers and stuff that we've had that He has taken us on this path, and we have literally taken our hands off the wheel and said, okay, God, if this is your dream that you put on us, then you're going to have to do it because there ain't no way.
Well, see, I have to tell you, we're walking it out. I wasn't crazy that morning when I called you and said, I believe that God just showed me that we're going to be in the marriage ministry. Mm-hmm. I don't know to what capacity, how big, how small, but I know that's where we're going. Mm-hmm. And I know we always had the desire to work together. And I know there was people in my life that were working together,
you guys need a break from each other. You can't be working together too.
Yeah, that's not right. You guys, how can you guys always be together and not
want to kill each other?
Yeah, because that's a lot of people's mentality, and I don't even know why.
I don't know why either.
I don't know why I truly enjoy working with you and spending time with you and doing all that we do for marriages. I really enjoy. Not saying that you don't upset me sometimes.
Come on.
We have to have conflict to grow. I'm
not the perfect husband. Come on.
I'm sorry. I love you, but no. And I wanted to get into this a little bit this morning because, Joyce Meyer was one of those, also alongside Jimmy Evans, one of those first people that we started listening to a lot at the beginning of her Christian walk. Yes. And I just loved her so much. She was just as real as it can get.
Well, I know that's why you connected with Joyce, because she really tells it like it is. I mean, yes, she's a Christian and she speaks the truth in love, but man, like you, she likes to come through the front door and just lay it out. And I know that's what connects with you.
Well, I know. I remember you telling me, babe, that's you. And I didn't know if to take it as a compliment at the time or not, because she did seem like very direct. A kind of different voice.
Yes.
Out there, but I really connected with her. I think we did, listening to her. Yeah. And I just so happened to run across her this morning and heard a message of hers this year in January. And she's talking about time, using time properly in your life, like how well are you using your time? So it got me to thinking about like time in your marriage.
That's huge. That is so true, because I mean, we hear... And even for us, having time management and how we're dealing with our time in our marriage. I mean, no, yesterday we were talking about, remember, repent, redo, but being intentional is what it comes down to.
Yeah.
But being intentional with your time in your marriage is so difficult as a couple.
Well, it could even be difficult for us, even though, like, we're working in the area of marriage with couples and the ministry of marriage. Like, we have to learn how to balance the time to have intentional time for just us.
Yes.
As much time as we spend together, we have to be intentional with just having us time, that business doesn't start to interfere with our time together.
Well, it's tough. Absolutely. I mean, I guess probably since we've been together, we were intentional about spending time together, but I guess it came down to the quality of time that we were having together. And that's kind of, I think what you're saying now is like, because of what we do, because we're constantly speaking about marriage and sharing with other couples about marriage, it's like we're on all the time that we're awake. I'm even thinking about God and marriage while I'm sleeping. I'll have dreams.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's such an integral part of our lives and important priority part of our lives. But I mean, we have to be careful too. We definitely have to be careful that our life doesn't just become about business, and that we become business partners instead of husband and wife. So we started talking about it a little bit this morning, but just asking the couples out there, how satisfied are you in your marriage? How much time do you actually spend together? It's important. A lot of couples don't have those heavy conversations. Some people are scared to talk to their spouse about their level of satisfaction in their marriage. Well, I mean, you want to be honest, like being open enough to go to you to even say, are you happy in our marriage? Well, that's scary for some people. Because some people don't want to hear the answer to that question. Like if I come to you and say, hey, like, am I doing everything right for you that you would want me to do? Is there something that I could do different that you would like? A lot of people don't like to ask those questions. It's scary because you're scared what somebody's going to say back to you. Well, yeah. I mean, like, again, if I come to you and say, hey, how am I doing as a husband? Are you satisfied with me being a husband? What would you like me to change? What do you want me to do? What do you want me to do more? What would you like me to do less? Like, that really opens yourself up. Well, you have to be real confident, and knowing that you're okay with what the answer is going to be. Because this is something you're being intentional about, and you really have a desire to do what's right in your marriage. Well, that and being humble, I think, is another big part of it, because I know for a lot of us, pride can get in the way to being able to not ask that question. Right? Because if I hear something back that I don't really like or that I don't agree with, am I going to be open enough and humble enough to receive it? And not be offended? And that's the tough part about it, which, again, being Christians is beautiful because God wants to help us have a humble heart. To come with us and help us be able to receive, to realize that none of us are perfect. None of us have it all figured out. But when you come to me and say, hey, this area in our marriage, especially when it comes to time, this is what I see that we could do different or what we can improve on. Well, quality time is huge in marriage. When we sit with couples and they start talking about, one person will say, I want more time with my spouse. I want to spend more time with them. And the other person will look at them and say, oh, we spent all kinds of time together. I believe what they mean is quality time to connect. And that's a great point, because that's what I want to zero in on today's podcast, is talking about quality time, what that looks like, because I think we can get that confused.
Well, are you being purposeful in your marriage? Like, what is the purpose of you in your marriage and your spouse?
Right. So we're going to take a break, guys, and we'll be right back. Hey guys, it's Brent and Lucy from Covenant Keepers. And if you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. First of all, it's free. It will cost you no money out of pocket. There's creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. The cool thing about it is that Anchor will distribute your podcast for you, so it can be heard from Spotify, Apple Podcast, and so many more. It's so easy, and everything you need to make a podcast you can find in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm, that's ANCHOR.FM, to get started today.
Well, a lot of people they can spend a day together, kind of together, quote unquote, but they're not really connecting.
Well, let's look at us. Like we shared, we spend all day together every day. So we have a lot of time together. But being honest, how much would you say is quality time? In your opinion, because this is going to be different, because I may have a different opinion than you.
Quality time. I mean, I would say we have several hours a day.
Okay.
Of connecting, because I generally, to be completely honest, have to pull you away from work.
Yes.
Because even though we don't work in the office every day, we work at home. Our home is also our office. So we have an office we go to, and then we work at home. And sometimes that can muddy the waters a little bit when it comes to quality time. So I would say generally during the week, probably, a few hours.
Now you say connecting. What does that mean for you, connecting?
Connecting is basically focused time without interruptions. And it's harder during the week just because, we get incoming calls a lot for work and stuff during our week. But it really means just putting everything, all devices aside, and let's have intentional conversation about whatever.
Okay. So spending focused time, having conversations together is important for you for quality time, from what I hear you saying.
Yeah.
Like for me, quality time, I like to sit and watch a movie together, right? That kind of fills me up in the area of quality time.
Right.
I like that. I like for just being together, spending time. I don't necessarily have to be doing anything.
Right.
I know I'm probably a little weird, but I do like talking and communicating, obviously. We do that quite a bit, and we share what we're reading in the Bible together. That's a quality time for us when we share the devotionals that we talk to and with each other, and just say, hey, man, what's God speaking to you?
Well, I think working in this area has been very beneficial to us because we both enjoy talking about marriage, talking about, visions and goals for the future as far as our marriage and how to share that with other people. And before we took a break, I mentioned purpose in marriage.
Yes.
Because everyone has a purpose in being married.
Right.
Like God brought you two together with purpose. There's an intention behind you guys coming together. I know a lot of people like to say, oh, we're so different. We've been married 15, 20, 25 years. And I'm just so annoyed.
Right.
But there is a purpose. And the only way you find that purpose is if you seek God for that purpose.
Yes.
Now, I know there's a point that Joyce Meyer mentioned that I loved. Like she talked about when you die, on your headstone there is like a beginning and an end date.
So a birth date and a death date.
Yes, and then there's a dash in between.
Does that mean you're dashing from the birth to the death?
Well, and
like you're in a race?
That's the kind of point. The point that she was making was like, what have you done with that dash in like your life?
Yes.
Because you got a beginning marker and an end marker, so the in between, what did you do with your in between? So it got me thinking about marriage.
Yes.
For couples like that, a lot of them that are in distress and annoyed with each other, like there are choices that you're making every single day from the birth date of your marriage all the way until death do us part.
Yes.
What are you doing with your dash in your marriage? Like what choices have you made that have led you to where you are today with your spouse?
So I guess that brings up a big question. Like, if we were to ask ourselves, like, that question, am I satisfied with my marriage? Like, where we're at in our marriage right now, am I satisfied? And if you are, I think that's great, right? Awesome. You guys are both on board. You're on the same page. We're heading in a direction together. But what if we're not? What if we're not satisfied in a marriage right now? Like, what do we do?
Well, and that's the beauty of that, is that, like, you don't have to be stuck there. Like, people think, oh, I married this person. You know, I don't believe in divorce, so I'm stuck. Well, that's not true. That's not true. You can revive that marriage at any point, depending on the choices that you make today. Like, right now, you can change it just by making different choices.
Well, I think a big question that we would have to ask ourselves, and I know we did, you know, finding that purpose, like, what do we want our marriage to look like? Where do we want our marriage to go? And have a goal and a purpose for that. And that's asking those questions, like, we call it the miracle question, right? If I were to wake up tomorrow, what would my marriage look like? Maybe I want us to be more spiritual together. Maybe I want us to read the Bible more together. Maybe I want us to go on more vacations.
I want to go on more vacations.
I know you want to go on more vacations. But asking those questions and sharing them with each other, that helps give a clearer vision for where we're trying to go with our marriage.
Well, right? The sad thing about what you're saying is that a lot of couples don't invest that kind of time to talk to each other and say, hey, are you satisfied with the direction of our marriage? Like where we are right now.
Right.
And just wait for that answer, and don't get discouraged if the answer that you get is not what you wanted to hear. Get encouraged, because you guys can change the direction where you're going from here on out.
Yeah, because I mean, if you're not having those conversations, one thing for sure, you're not going to get there.
Right.
Because you're not going to know. You're really setting yourself up for failure if you're not having those conversations.
And if you're sitting and waiting for the other person to change or the other person to do something different, think about it. It might be God prompting your heart, because there has to be a change, and maybe you are the one that he's talking to for you to take the first step to make those changes. Instead of waiting, like, have the conversation today. You can have a much more enjoyable marriage if you just stop, humble yourself, make the choice to do something different in your marriage, because it's worth it, because there's purpose in your marriage. Other people are watching, even though you might not be aware of it. There are so many people that are watching your marriage.
Yeah, especially your kids, if you have kids. They're watching it for sure. Like, they are on 24/7. They got their little videotape recorders. Well, not videotapes anymore. They got they got their little phones running in their brain. Well, and they're keeping track of that.
Yeah, there's a training. It's what we call it. There's a training that your kids are getting just by what they're watching you guys do in your marriage. So, and that was one of our other points that we talked about, and we continuously talk about, what are our kids seeing in us? Are we doing what God is calling us to do in our marriage? Not just like on the business side, but in our marriage. Are we walking out what we talk to people about, and are our kids taking in that training?
Well, one point I don't want to miss, because it's really, really important when you say about making choices, right? Are you inviting God in when you're praying for these things? Like, are you praying and asking God, help direct my heart, that the choices that I'm going to make are going to honor you in our marriage?
That's so huge. That's so huge, because a lot of people want to change. They don't know how to do it. And I know this is not newsflash for a lot of people, like, especially Christians. Like, you can talk about change, but you're not going to be able to do it alone. God created all of us, and he created all of us with purpose. Why not go back to God and ask him to help you change in these areas to align more with his perfect will for your marriage?
Yeah. Well, that's the thing, because, like, anything that God has for you is going to be so much better than what you have for you.
Yeah.
Because our little finite minds is very limited. Like, go back to when we talked about when we had this vision for getting involved in the ministry. Like, to me, that was like Pluto. Like, I know it's out there, but I ain't never seen it. You know, and I have to just believe in faith. Like, possibly God? I don't know. I mean, if it's God's plan, he can do it. But
I mean, you didn't get excited when I called you that morning, and I was like, hey, I just got this vision from God. Like, you probably thought I was completely psychotic.
I didn't think you're psychotic, but it's like, hey, let's go to astronaut school. Okay, I never really thought about that, but I mean, let's look into it. But God, even in that area, like, I prayed and asked God to change my heart because I don't want to be God. Like, I've tried, to be honest, I tried to be God in my life. I tried to make my own choices, do my own things, and it never worked out well. So even now in our marriage, like, when you bring something to me that necessarily, okay, I don't see this very well, I will pray and ask God, hey man, if I'm wrong, change my heart. Because I never want to stand in the way of what God is telling you. And again, that takes a humble heart. Now, you're going to hear me say that a lot because I know that there's a hidden pride inside of me that I need God's help with every day. That I don't know everything. That God could be speaking to you. And I just want to keep myself open and ready to receive whatever God is using in my life, in our marriage. Because I want to be wherever God's at. I want to be wherever He's working. You know what I mean?
Well, it takes a lot of humility to be there. Because it means you're putting your life in God's hands and you're trusting in somebody else to lead you and guide you. And a lot of people don't like that. They don't want somebody else telling them what to do. They want to take control. But it does take a lot of humility to hear God and follow. Like, it's huge, but I think it's super important in marriage.
All right,
I mean, in every part of our life, but in marriage, it's huge.
Absolutely. So I guess the real thing here is that if you and your spouse haven't sat down and said, okay, what is the purpose of our marriage? What's our vision for our marriage? That would be the first step.
Well, right? And are we satisfied with our marriage?
Well, yeah. What, you think we should come out of the gate with that?
Well, I mean, these are like openers for these conversations. A lot of people don't know how to have these conversations.
Well, okay, let's help them out there. How can someone that's never had a conversation, let's say they've been married 20 years, because we've seen it. Couple's been married for 20 years, and I just don't feel comfortable saying this to my spouse. Help them. How can they feel more comfortable, or an opener to come to their spouse and say, you know what? I don't know if I'm really happy where we're at in our marriage.
Well, I think, I believe that these conversations work best when you start with the positives. Like, you married this person because you saw something in them that you really loved. Like, there is still a reason why you have been married this long. And the underlying reason here, of course, it's God. Yeah. Because God is keeping you guys together for a reason. But starting with the positive. Like, I love XYZ about you. Yeah. But there's a couple of things that I want to talk to you about to see how we can change things in our marriage. Like, that's softer. Yes. Like, you're not coming out the gate pointing the finger at your spouse, saying how horrible of a husband or a wife they have been for the past 15 years. Like, that's not going to go well. I
had a dream about marriage, and this ain't it. That's not going to come off very well.
Right. And you know what? It has to be realistic as well. It has to, your expectations have to align with God's for them to be real and good for your marriage.
Yeah. Well, I think that, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, what do you want for your marriage? What do you want your marriage to look like? And make sure that both of you guys are coming into agreement in that.
And that's a great point. And I think, as always, a good place to start is pray and ask God to give you the words to speak to your spouse.
Yes.
Pray and ask God to soften your spouse's heart.
To receive?
To receive yes. when you come to talk to them. Because I'm telling you, I know I do it with us. And every time that I've invited God into the conversation, it works.
Well, it goes a lot better than expected.
100%. 100%. God does something in my heart, and I know that God does something in your heart. And I'm not saying everything works out perfectly every time as far as what my desires are, but God does something that we're able to work through it and continue moving forward in His perfect will.
Yep, I agree with that.
So before we wrap, guys, I guess the question we want to ask, or maybe you can ask yourself, is, are you satisfied with your marriage? Like, what do you want your marriage to look like? Right?
And it doesn't have to be like this hard question to answer. Like, it's not difficult. It's what do you want? What do you desire for your marriage?
Right.
Keeping them realistic is key.
and then start planning out steps how to get there with your spouse. Mm-hmm. So thanks for staying with us, guys. And before the break, we were talking about quality time. Because that's the big thing is like, what are we doing with our time, right? How do we make it quality time? So I guess first let's talk about what quality time is not. So guys, we hope you enjoyed the podcast today. We hope it's been helpful. If you did like it, please go check us out at covenantkeeper4life.com. That's covenantkeeper, the number 4life.com. And get out there, guys. Stand for marriage. Stand for God. You're a covenant keeper.